We heard this morning, like as you're getting ready to be these leaders, we heard that you had questions about what does this really look like? Like, can we see what this looks like in other districts, other states? What lessons can we learn from other people? So that's what we're going to do between now and lunch, is dig into some of these stories and see what we can take away from them, what we can learn to apply in our districts. And we're going to start talking about time, okay? Right, we know we've been talking about this. This is a journey. This is not an event. It's not happening today, right? This is a path we're going on together. And it's going to take a while, right? This is your overall timeline for what TEA is basically saying about implementation of the TEACs. I don't know if you can read this, but, standards adopted, 2021, updated state assessments, 2026. That's 5 years, right? And it's up to each of these districts, each of your schools, each of your teachers to kind of fill in the gaps here. We put some ideas, based on what we're talking about together, of some things that might happen between now and 2026. But these are your decisions to think about how we sequence this, and it's not going to be a 1 point, like 2022, we developed leadership teams, done. All right, but these are just ideas that are going to happen along the way. What we're going to do is dive into what one district did for this kind of changing standards. And we're going to see the kinds of things they were thinking about, how they sequenced this out. All right, I'm going to give you about 6 minutes to start looking through these timelines individually. And as you look through this timeline, we're going to be able to talk about this in just a minute, but first, you'll have some time to read, about 6 minutes. So as you look through, try to identify one thing that you think is pretty cool, one thing you're wondering about, maybe a question, and then one thing you think is maybe surprising. You can annotate them. You have highlighters in your cool little texty pens, and use different marks, whatever you want. But we're just going to take 6 minutes to do this reading. So many questions and decisions that you all get to make for your contexts. It's exciting. All right, we've taken just a tiny dive into an over the 5-year span kind of timeline. Now we want to dig deeper into these things. So the little cells in your timeline, they describe things in one sentence, right? We don't know exactly what that looks like. So next we're going to take a look at some stories that dig into actual district initiatives, right? Some ideas for how some districts have rolled out new science standards. And these stories are going to come back to our 5 system drivers, right? We happen to have 5 stories. That doesn't mean that each story deals with one system driver. You can imagine that in the real world, everything we do touches more than one system driver, right? And is affected by more than one system driver. It just so happens that there's 5 of each of you, and so that's why there's 5 stories. So 5 is a common number, but I don't know. Let's just say it's lucky. All right, so we're going to read these examples of how leaders made change. You have 5 people per team. That means each one of you in the team is going to read a different story. All right, and for the stories that you read, and we'll tell you which one in just a minute, we're going to think about how they connect to the 5 system drivers. And so you'll read your story and collect these ideas. Maybe there's some strategies. maybe, just like with the timeline, the district did something really well that you want to learn from, and maybe they did something that you have an idea you could improve. Right, from your system, you see how things could be better connected. Maybe they didn't bring in the community, and you have an idea for a way they could have. All right, so we're gonna take notes, and then we're going to share with a different group, not our district groups, but you share with your reading group the ideas that you had.
So we're going to take a brief moment to debrief. I know we just took in a lot of information right now. So I'm going to give you all each a moment at your table, and I want you all to share one thought or idea that you believe would be useful moving forward, and it can be from the vignettes, from your cross-district discussions that you had, or from the implementation timelines that you looked at. So take a moment with your team. What's one thing that you want to pull from the work we've done over the last hour or so that you want to use moving forward?